My name is Julian, and I am a liar. Standing at the altar in a $5,000 tuxedo, looking at my beautiful bride Claire, I felt like I had finally won. I grew up in a world of broken crete and broken dreams, a trailer park in Ohio where the air always smelled like rust and poverty. But I escaped. I moved to New York, scrubbed my accent, and built a tech empire. To marry into the Witchire family, I had to be someone else. Claire's parents were old money. They didn't just want a successful son-in-law, they wanted a pedigree. So, I gave them one. I told them my mother was a world-renowned pianist who had passed away years ago in a quiet villa in Paris. I even showed them a fake photo of a woman who looked nothing like the woman who actually birthed me. It was a perfect, golden lie. The wedding was held at a private estate in the Hamptons. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the 300 elite guests. But as we were about to exchange vows, the heavy iron gates at the entrance rattled. A woman was standing there. She looked like a ghost from a nightmare. She wore a coat that was more holes than fabric, shoes held together by silver duct tape, and her hair was a matted nest of gray and dirt. The smell of the city street seemed to follow her even from 50 yards away. The guests began to whisper, "Is that a protester? Who let a homeless woman in here?" My heart stopped. It was her, Martha, my mother. She wasn't dead, and she certainly hadn't been in Paris. She had been living under a bridge in Chicago for the last 10 years. I rushed to the gate before the security could tackle her. I didn't hug her. I didn't ask if she was okay. I hissed under my breath, "What are you doing here? You are destroying everything. Get out before I have you arrested." She looked at me, her eyes clouded with cataracts but filled with a devastating softness. "Julian," she whispered, "I just wanted to see you stand there. I just wanted to see your smile. I don't know you." I yelled, loud enough for the front row to hear, "Security, get this beggar away from my wedding." I thought it was over. We finished the vows, but the atmosphere had changed. During the reception, while the champagne flowed and the orchestra played, the room suddenly went ice cold. Martha hadn't left. She had slipped through a side entrance for the caterers. Before I could stop her, she was on the stage. She reached for the microphone. My father-in-law stood up, his face red with anger. "Julian, explain this immediately." I panicked. I laughed a hollow, dry laugh. "She's just a stray, sir. A crazy woman looking for a handout. He'll handle it." But Martha spoke, and her voice, though raspy from years of breathing cold night air, commanded room. "I am the beggar Julian spoke of," she began. The room fell into a deathly silence. But 20 years ago, I didn't look like this. I had a home, a car, and 2 jobs. When Julian was 7, he was diagnosed with a rare bone disease. The doctors said he would never walk again without a series of experimental surgeries. The insurance called it elective. They wouldn't pay a cent. She looked directly at me. I couldn't move. "We had a choice," she continued. "The house or his life." I sold the house. I worked 3 shifts until my body gave out. I took on debt that buried me. I lost my health, my home, and eventually my mind to the stress. All so he could stand at this altar today on his own 2 legs. I didn't come here for a handout, Julia. I came to give you the last thing I had left. She reached into her tattered pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. It was dirty, but when she opened it, a gold ring sparkled under the chandeliers. "This was your grandmother's wedding ring. I slept in shelters for a decade with this tucked into my palm so nobody would steal it. I saved it for your wedding day." She placed the ring on the edge of the crystal podium and turned away. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. She walked out of the ballroom, her duct tape shoes clicking softly on the marble floor. I stood there, a millionaire in a designer suit, but I felt smaller than the dirt on her shoes. Claire looked at me, her eyes filled with a horror I will never forget. She slowly slid her engagement ring off her finger and placed it next to my grandmother's gold band. "A man who treats the woman who saved his life like a beggar is not a man I can spend my life with," she whispered. The Witchires walked out. The guests followed. Within 10 minutes, I was alone in a room built for 300. I picked up the small gold ring. It was warm from her hand. I spent the next 3 years and half my fortune looking for her. I finally found her in a small clinic in Seattle. She didn't recognize me at first. The dementia had taken hold. I don't live in a penthouse anymore. I live in a modest house near her care facility. Every day, I sit with the woman I called a beggar, holding her hand, hoping that just once she'd look at me and know that her son finally learned what success actually costs. Why do we do it? Why do we, as human beings, feel the need to trade the people who love us for the people who barely notice us? Julian stood in that ballroom, surrounded by crystal and gold, believing he had finally made it. But the truth is, the more he tried to look rich in the eyes of the elite, the more bankrupt his soul became. We live in a world obsessed with aesthetics. We want the perfect wedding, the perfect career, the perfect image. But an image is just a shadow, and a shadow has no heart. We spend our lives building walls to keep our past out, only to realize we've locked ourselves in a golden cage. 1:30 to 3 o'clock. The hands of a mother. Think about Martha's hands. For Julian, they were an embarrassment, dirty, calloused, and shaking. But those hands were a map of his survival. Every scar on her skin was a day she worked to pay for his surgery. Every wrinkle was a night she spent praying for his health. When we look at our parents and feel ashamed of their lack of education, their old clothes, or their simple ways, we are actually mocking the very tools they used to build our future. Shame is the poison that kills gratitude. We judge the person they became because of the sacrifices they made for the person we are today. 3 o'clock to 4:30. The ring and the legacy. The most heartbreaking part of this story isn't that Julian lied. It's that even after he called her a beggar, Martha still gave him the ring. She didn't come for revenge. She didn't come to ruin him. She came to finish her job as a mother. She kept that ring safe in homeless shelters and cold alleys for 10 years. That ring represents a love that is unconditional, a concept we talk about often but rarely understand. Julian realized too late that the most valuable diamond in that room wasn't on Claire's finger. It was the rusted gold band from a woman he tried to throw out. Real wealth isn't what you earn, it's what you refuse to lose along the way. 4:30 to 5:30. The price of regret. Regret is a heavy burden to carry, especially when it's too late to fix things. Julian spent the next 3 years searching for a woman he had cast aside in a single moment of vanity. He traded his wedding, his reputation, and his peace of mind for a lie that collapsed in minutes. How many of us are doing the same thing right now? How many of us are ignoring a call, skipping a visit, or hiding our background just to fit into a room that doesn't even care about our existence? The elite guests at that wedding didn't comfort Julian when he was alone. They turned their backs. Only his mother remained, and even her memory was fading. 5:30 to 6 o'clock. A message to you. So, I want to ask you a question today. Who are you trying to impress? And at what cost? Don't wait until you're standing in an empty room with a pile of money and no one to share it with. If your parents are still here, call them. Not because you have to, but because you can. Don't let your success become your loneliness. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go out and the guests go home, the only thing that remains is the love you chose to keep or the love you chose to throw away.